Good to go.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Tech Academy's Tech Talk. Today we are actually here with one of our graduates, Marquita Hartman. We're really excited for her to be here. She's going to talk about SQL, which is something that you guys are taking courses on in the bootcamp right now, or you've already taken it. So it's going to be a lot of informative stuff. So thank you for being here and take it away.
All right, sounds good. So I'm a database developer and I work mostly on data feeds that go out to our clients. So we work mostly with SQL. We do a little bit with Python, but it's mostly SQL. So I'm just going to be talking about creating efficient code in SQL. And these are just a few techniques that I use on a day-to-day basis. And I thought it would be interesting to share with you. So it's going to be pretty short and sweet, but I hope you guys can take something away from it. Next slide. Okay, so I'll be talking about updating legacy code, creating small batches of data, using temp tables, and avoiding using the distinct statement. Next slide. So updating legacy code, leave the campsite better than you found it, if you can. So you might work for a company that deals with some legacy code. So that's just old code that may be in the process of being updated. We do this a lot in my job. Sometimes this is easier said than done. So legacy data may not exactly line up correctly with the new processes. So it is difficult to make the transition sometimes. There's a lot of testing involved with many different people, and it can become a really big project. But there are some small fixes you can do when you're inside the code. So one of the easiest things that we do is we remove no locks that load the tables. So all we do is we do a find on the word locks and just delete it. So no locks retrieve the rows without waiting for the other queries that are reading. So you may get a bad read or bad data. So it's considered a bad practice that you should generally avoid. And then another simple fix is to look for redundancies. So sometimes the code that you're working with can be so large and the past developer just doesn't have time to look through it or research it thoroughly. So if you see some part of it that you think may be unnecessary, you can run a test case. So all you do is you run the original code and see what results you get, and then eliminate the part that you think is redundant and run it again. If you do get the same number of rows and the exact same data, then you can most likely take out that piece of code and it should run faster. But there's a lot of testing that goes on. So if it turns out that you can't take it out, just put it back in. But most likely you can take out that piece. Next slide, please. So creating small batches of data. I recently worked on a project like this. We have a data feed that takes roughly like 40 minutes to complete. So we broke down the main stored procedure that runs it. It became very large as we started to build it. So we decided to break it down and it made it run about 25% faster. We just, let's see, sorry, I lost my spot. So we broke it down into different steps and we made them into their own smaller stored procedures. We're currently in the process of deactivating the main load proc completely, and we're just in the final testing stages. So right now it runs really, really fast. So that's really exciting to see as a developer, and it's just a good way to make things run faster. Next slide, please. Okay, so using temp tables, don't reinvent the wheel. You can use a temp table to extract information from an actual table without having to recreate your own table. So there's logic inside a stored procedure that involves manipulation of data that cannot be done with just a single query. So you can store that in a temp table to achieve the final results, and that usually makes things run faster. And it will give you the final results you need. And then it's immediately dropped from the database at the end of the query. So it won't essentially take up space. Next slide. So avoid using distinct. Use the GroupBy instead. This one's a little muddled, but the select distinct statement is used to return only distinct or different values, whereas the GroupBy statement groups rows that have the same values into sort of a summary row. So it kind of filters the data even more and gets rid of data you don't really need. So there's less of a chance that you will get duplicate values, and duplicate values absolutely need to be eliminated in production because the clients don't want to see the same data twice. It just takes them longer to review it. So it slows down processing by taking up more space. So using GroupBy is usually the best practice. Okay, so yeah, like I said, it's pretty short and sweet, but those are the main techniques I use every day, pretty much, and it's what we practice at my work. We actually have a checklist of all of these so that we make sure to use everything when we code. So I can try and answer any questions. Does anyone have any questions about anything?
It looks like Forrest does. Maybe we can turn off the turn on the microphones.
Turning on the mics right now. All right, go ahead, Forrest.
Hey, yeah, this is all super useful information. We use SQL here at our job in a different sort of way, but this is all, we're kind of amateurs at it. But I was curious, what sort of do you use any testing frameworks or libraries? You've mentioned testing a bunch of times. What's the typical structure for going through that?
So for testing, we break down the stored procedures by just using the select statements. We just comment the code out so it's not running the actual procedure. And then from those results, all we do is we copy and paste into an Excel. And then in Excel, we can find duplicates, or we can look at the data, make sure that it looks right to us. And then we then pass it on to another peer to look at it. So it kind of goes down the pipeline. From there, it goes to quality assurance. They do testing, make sure it looks perfect. Then it goes to the relationship managers who also test it because they have direct contact with the clients. So that's just the kind of testing that we do.
Okay, so a lot of hands on it, as it sounds like.
So that's, I
Nice.
mean, I work at a big corporation, so I've heard that smaller companies don't need to do that many steps.
Yeah, I would imagine. So what kind of data are you working with? Is it pretty broad, or is it?
Yeah, it's pretty broad. We have several different columns. We have a package that we just built that we offer to clients. It's really, really easy to code. You just kind of work off a template, and it's really, really fast. So it's a financial company, so it's a whole lot of data that involves everything pretty much. So
Makes sense.
Mhm.
One last question. Could you give us some examples of when you would use stored procedures? I think a lot of folks have heard that term a lot, but not a lot of practical experience with that.
Yeah, so a stored procedure loads the table. It's like the driving force. It's where all your calculations are, all your information. And the columns are driven by a data dictionary. So there's a huge data dictionary in the data warehouse where the calculations lie. So the stored procedures carry those. Sometimes you have to put in different formats for the columns, but basically a stored procedure is the driving force for a table. So you can't have a table without a stored procedure.
Nice. Thank you.
Great questions. We do have one more question that just went over the slide that's present on here. It says, why GroupBy instead of distinct?
So it's kind of hard to explain, but it basically just kind of compresses everything a little bit more. So you have to use aggregates with GroupBy so that it kind of knows like what you're looking for. So you'll have a select statement with like maybe like an account number and like a date. If you have duplicates, like duplicate account numbers but different dates, those aren't considered distinct, so distinct won't catch that, but a GroupBy does because it knows that your aggregate is looking by account number and date. So it just depends kind of what you're looking for. It's kind of weird if you don't see it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Do we have any other questions? You can definitely feel free to raise a hand or type it in the chat box.
So I'm curious, Marquita, when you finished at the Tech Academy and went looking for work, were you looking for a database job? Is that kind of what you decided while you were going through the boot camp, or is that something, it was just work that came up that you decided to go with?
Yeah, it was just work that came up. I decided to go with it. I did an internship at a design company, and we did a lot of front-end design. So I would just help them with whatever they needed. So I really was looking for a front-end job. So I was kind of surprised at how much I really liked database development, but I really wasn't specifically looking for database development.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've had students that have gone through the boot camp, and as they finished database, they decided, hey, this is what I want to do. And we've had a good amount of database developers that became their career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually really interesting, and you can do a lot of stuff with SQL. It's pretty, and it works a lot with Microsoft. We work with SSIS, which is like reports, and SSRS drives our data feeds. So that's like a whole different area to learn, which is really interesting.
Great. And then Dylan, also we are recording this session, so we'll post it on our YouTube channel and you can see the beginning of the slides as well. Any other questions that you guys might have? Marquita, I was wondering, what was your experience like here at the Tech Academy? And what did you learn here on the program that you're currently using on your current job?
It was really great. I loved going to the Tech Academy. So I am using a lot of SQL. We do a little bit with Python. We're trying to integrate Python with the company a little bit more because it's faster. And that's, I mean, just the whole process of breaking down problems that you learn while coding. Sometimes it's really frustrating, but it's really nice to just use the tools that I got from the Tech Academy. Maybe you have to take a step back, or every time I got stuck on a problem, I would just go take a walk, and it usually came to me. So yeah, the Tech Academy really helped me with gaining tools like that. So.
Awesome. And then how are you continuing to learn and pick up new tips regarding SQL?
So my company has a program. They pay for classes. So they use Percipio, which is, I guess, popular coding classes. And they specifically, I mean, they have all kinds, but I've been doing the one specific to my job. And it's totally free, and it's really nice. And then I can submit courses if I want to learn them to the head manager, and they likely will approve them, and then the company pays for them. So yeah, I've just been taking advantage of that. Mhm.
Oh, that's awesome. Do we have any other questions? Don't hesitate to ask. I can also. Oh,
I was just going to say, Marquita, when you do your daily or your weekly routine, is it mostly kind of a set thing of things you do every week, or are you given tasks to do that are new, like every day or every week?
It's kind of both. So we work in 2-week sprints. So we have our ceremonies every morning. We do a stand-up. And then every 2 weeks we have sprint planning where we get either new stuff or we have to roll over stuff that we've worked on before. And that's just kind of how it works. So the tickets come in, they have to be prioritized by our product owner. We have to decide if they're actually for our team or not. And then if they are for us, we have to refine them as developers. We have to ask questions in order to work on them. So sometimes requirements aren't clear from the relationship managers. So it just depends on what we get, but it could be anything. It could be something that we've never done before that we have to just work out because it falls under our department. Or it's stuff like we do our packages the same every day. So it just depends.
Got it.
Mhm.
And where the data, after you do the queries and that kind of thing, who analyzes the data usually?
So that goes to the testers, which are the relationship managers. We also have peer review. So the other developers will test it for us to make sure that it makes sense to them. And then we send those test cases to the relationship managers to the clients. So it kind of goes through a lot of testing, but that's kind of how we do it from code to English.
Well, and working for a big company, I'm sure there's some huge databases.
Yeah, it is. It's very huge. Mhm.
I've got a question. Oh, actually, I think there's a question in the chat, but if you want to answer that one first.
You can raise your
go
hand for
for
us.
it.
Okay, sorry. You mentioned, you just wanted to jump on it while you mentioned like sprint planning and doing the agile sort of environment. How much, because we do that at the Tech Academy, how much did that help you like in navigating that as like a professional? Was that like a relatively similar experience as like doing the live projects, or did that help you at all, or was that like?
Yeah, it definitely helped me. It kind of got me to know like the different ceremonies and what you have to do. And initially when I started, we did not have Agile. And so they just implemented a new Agile for us. And we got a Scrum Master, and it made a world of difference because it took me back to the place where I'm like, oh yeah, I already learned this in the Tech Academy. So yeah, it just really kept us on track using Agile, and I'm really glad that they implemented it. So it's really nice. It was nice to know how it worked beforehand.
Nice. And follow-up question, what sort of organization platform do you use? Are you guys like a Trello, or do you guys have a specific platform that you use for organizing stories and whatnot?
We use ADO, it's Azure DevOps.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So I think that's what did the Tech Academy use that? Because it looks really familiar. Okay.
Yeah, that's the same one.
Yeah.
Nice,
So,
that's good. So you were relatively familiar with the platform before.
Yeah, we actually just switched over. So we used what we call TFS. I don't remember what it stands for, but then we switched over and I was like, oh, this is so much nicer.
Nice. Yeah, that's what we use here, and it's a dream. Makes things a lot easier.
Yes.
All right, it looks like Seth has a question. How does SQL interact with end user apps, web, mobile, etc.?
I have no idea. Sorry. I was hoping to answer all the questions, but I don't work with web. Yeah.
Just goes to show how a big company like that, you don't get your hands on everything, right? You just
No,
like
they have a
very
totally separate department yeah, that does that.
Very specific tasks.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right. Any other questions? It can also, Marquita, is your LinkedIn a good place where people can contact you?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
with
So
them?
please feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to talk to you guys and connect. So yeah.
Yeah, I just shared her LinkedIn in the chat box. Oh, someone had something to say? Oh, it looks like Forrest has something.
Yeah, sorry, I just got a million questions.
No, go for it.
Well, we spoke about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, at your first Tech Talk, and I'm just curious. Since then, like, is this the same company that you're in since you were then? Okay.
Yeah.
And it's been like 2 years since you've been in the industry, something like that.
Yeah.
How do you feel now compared to then in terms of like imposter syndrome and confidence and enjoyment of like what you're doing? Do you feel like it's progressing, or how does that all?
That's a good question. So I do know a lot more, but the more I know, the more I realize how much I don't know, if that makes sense. But I feel like I'm getting kind of too specialized in what I'm doing. So, for me, I would like to sort of branch out. But going from there to here, I do feel like I've learned a lot. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but I think that if I can do it, anyone can do it. So yeah.
Thank you. And do you like have a specific area you want to like move into? Do you think SQL is going to help you move into another field, or this data management, or do you?
Yeah, so I would like to do the web development combined with the data. We do have a team that does that. They just currently don't have any openings. So it would be nice to stay within the company, but I would like to find a job more like that.
Cool. Well, it's cool to have that option to be able to move in the company at least when the
Yeah,
opportunity comes up.
yeah. Mhm.
Well, thank you.
Well, and Marquita, I believe you, when you went to the school, you were in Colorado. Are you still currently in Colorado?
Yes, I'm still in Denver. Hmm.
And did you find your work before COVID or after COVID? I guess it was before.
It was right before January 2020 was when I got my job. So they kicked us out of the office the second week of March because somebody got COVID on our floor. And it was very quick. Somebody came in and they said, "Don't take any of your stuff, just get out." So, yeah.
Wow. Are you still working remotely?
Yes. Hmm. Yeah, I don't think they'll ever make us go back to the office full time. We have the option to, which I go maybe like once or twice a month, just to kind of get out of the house. But yeah.
Wow, that's crazy how things have just completely shifted after that.
I know. It was crazy. Yes. It's still a little crazy. It's like nobody knows what's going on. But
Well, you
Yeah,
were
I guess
you were full time in the office before, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
we could work from home like once a week if we needed to. Like if you had like a doctor's appointment or if your kids were sick, anything like that. So mhm.
I got a follow-up question. I'm about to start working from home. What can I expect in terms of like, how do you keep yourself focused and like not, just like dawdling off
Yeah.
with random tasks?
Yeah, so I really stick to a routine just like I did at work. Um, so wake up at the same time every day, get dressed. Don't just work in your pajamas every day. You can, but I don't. Um, uh, yeah, just stick to a routine. I do chores like in the middle of the day, but it really doesn't have any impact on my workload. Um, I do get more work done, which is nice because I'm not so distracted by the office noise and everything like that. But my main thing is I have to stick to a strict schedule when I'm working during the day. So
Do you try to just get the 8 hours or whatever in like in a
yeah.
row, or you're not splitting it up at all? Okay.
I split it up actually. So if I have something to do, like if I have, it's really flexible. I'll go to my meetings if I need to do something like, I don't know, if I have a doctor's appointment or if I have something I need to do during the day. I just block out my calendar and then I come back and I do 8 hours a day. There's not really anyone that tracks it, but yeah, it's pretty easy to fit 8 hours in, but be flexible.
Yeah, I think that's the tough part. If like when no one's tracking it, like still sticking to that.
Oh,
It's
I
like
know.
all that freedom you get, and you're like, it's
Yeah.
like moving out of your house for the first time, or whatever.
But also, you know, you still got to get your work done on time. So
Yeah. So I guess that's the pressure you need.
Yes.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, you got to be very disciplined.
Gotta watch the Netflix distractions.
oh no, yeah.
Also, we do have another question. So, any recommendations to someone who is trying to relearn SQL, where to start, etc.?
I would start, I don't know, there's a lot of free courses. I've been using Coursera. Sometimes they have a lot of really good SQL courses to sort of get back into it, but I just look online at free courses, and that's how I kind of refresh on different languages.
And I'm actually trying to give you guys a link for that. I actually just came across Coursera a few days ago. They do have like a variety of different options. Here's the link if you guys want to check it out. Wow, it's a really long link. Don't know why, but here you go. All right. Any other questions? I don't think I missed anything in the chat box. I know I sometimes like remember my questions after the talk is over. So I did put Marquita's LinkedIn in there if you guys want to contact her on there. And also feel free to like leave your LinkedIn in here if you guys want to connect with each other. I think that's a great way to network with one another. But if there are no more questions, this is pretty much the end of the talk. Thank you guys for joining.
Marquita, are you using SQL for Azure?
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Are you using it for Azure yet?
Azure? Like, I don't.
Well.
Oh, no.
Oh, just out of curiosity.
So Larry, so actually Marquita was supposed to be presenting on the 10th, but she came through and we had a speaker who canceled and she definitely came in and just took the part. So thank you again for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you. So the talk that was supposed to be happening again, it will get rescheduled. I just don't have it rescheduled right now. But on June 10th, we actually have Josh Matthews coming in. And they're going to be doing a talk on acing your interviews. Hopefully that'll be helpful for you guys. So go ahead and check it out. Let me actually share this link with you. First of all, this is the link to next week's Tech Talk. Like I mentioned, this is going to be presented on campus. But if you don't live near our campus, you can definitely tune in through Google Meet. It will be the same link. And I'll email everyone the details if you RSVP on Meetup. So check that out. But if you're interested in attending other Tech Talks and checking out the whole schedule, here is the link. And like I mentioned, this is recorded. So you can definitely check this out on YouTube. Rick will be posting it either at the end of today or sometime this week. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys. Hopefully you guys found this Tech Talk informative, and I hope to see you guys next week. Thank you so much, Marquita, for pulling through and making it to this Tech Talk. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining. Yeah,
Thanks,
of course.
Marquita. Yeah, it was short notice, and we appreciate you stepping up. So that was
Yeah.
awesome.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
Marquita.
Bye.
See ya, Hannah.
She's- See you. You want to stop the recording?
No, I don't. I'm going to keep it going.
Oh, so much editing.